obviously, everybody has read the title, and somehow it strikes something within you, and you're here. So the question that comes to mind is, why me? Why am I doing this? And why am I here with Manel, who's my partner on this particular workshop? Well, it starts with a quick story. So everybody who knows me, or know of me, since I was a child, I was always very fascinated with spirituality. And throughout my life to date, I've experienced a lot of unusual phenomena that some would label spiritual, some may not. But it always gave me a sense of there's a lot more to life than what is right there in front of us. And that curiosity stayed till I got into the corporate world. And finally, when I actually got into the corporate world and got into the challenging masculine energy of the corporations and the competitiveness of all of that, I was so dragged into it that all that curiosity kind of faded away. And throughout all of that experience and going up the ladder and going as high as I could, which I did, I enjoyed it. There were a lot of great times and a lot not so great times as well, like most of us would probably say about their experiences. But something kept coming up all the time, and that something was missing. I was getting the money, I was getting the power, I was getting the position, but something was missing, and it didn't feel okay. Not until recently. So, what happened recently? About 7 months ago, I happened to face a personal tragedy, and that was the loss of my father. He was, to some of you who may know him, a physician, a scholar who seeks truth, and he's someone who never stopped looking for that missing element till the last day. And it was on that one day where he asked me to come in to his room while he was in the hospital. And he said, "Sit, I need to tell you something." And for a second, it was like, okay, what's happening here? What's that magic word that he's going to share with me? And I was emotional, but trying to be strong. And then he went on to say, okay, so I need you to consider this. Forget the past, forget the future. Everything that matters is now, is happening in that moment. And my father was not someone who's on the internet or who knows even how to browse or is aware of the new trend of what's happening. He just said it, and for a second it was stupefying, and I was like, what does he mean? And I actually asked him for an explanation. And then he continued to say, you, here, and now. Those were the exact 3 words he used. You, here, and now. And he specifically asked me to share this with my brothers and my sister and my mother. And the more I dug into this message, the more I started understanding the significance of how this message links back to what I was always looking for, the missing element, the missing feeling, the missing it that was inside of me that I couldn't explain. And obviously, what that means is that we all have to focus on us first and live in the moment, in the present moment, absorb it well, because if you're thinking too much about the past, you have not enjoyed what's going on, and if you're thinking too much about the future, you're continuously running. I'm going to show you a quick clip of Alan Watts. Anyone know Alan Watts here? 1, okay, 2, that's great. So Alan Watts, you want to go back? Okay, yeah, just click, okay.
Thing that being is important for doing. There's many ways to see it, but one of the ways I like to look at it is simply that being is a detachment. Now let me explain what detachment again. I'm not going extreme on that. Yeah? Detachment is not I don't care. The detachment is putting greater awareness in the things you are doing. So I repeat that because I think that's important. It's putting greater awareness when you are doing something.
But being detached from the outcome.
All the time when I take train, whenever I am,
No having
peace. Whatever you discuss and you close your eyes and you feel very good. But in the moment you stand up to look for a hamburger, you are in a different state. You are not as happy, speaking about happiness, like the first moment when you were meditative and stuff. I think that's some source of our problems. Some source of our problems is that we distinguish between them. And I'm here to tell you that the solution, possibly one of the solutions, is to have them together. How to have them together? Putting greater awareness in whatever you do. If you are meditating, well, stand up in a meditative way and ask a hamburger in a meditative way. Trust me, you would not say, give me this hamburger. You would be compassionate. I would love to have this hamburger. People will feel your positivity because you are present. Most of the time we are not present. We are just doing things. Because we have stress. Your boss is telling you, do these papers, and then 1 minute later, and then you're completely out of your mind. So I have done here a table. Where is this table? No, before that. Yeah, this one. So I have done table, which is summarizing all we say. So doing is accomplishing, being is self-aware. If you see it together. But you try to accomplish. If you accomplish with the stress and with this moment of, I want to finish this thing, you feel unhappy.
For yourself, which is exactly the state of balance we would like to achieve. Does that make any sense to you? So if I take it back to my experience in the corporate world, to give it more sense of reality, when I was there, I was in the state of doing the whole time. I never really understood why I'm doing what I'm doing. I just did it because I needed to do it. I wanted to get the car, I wanted to get the money, I wanted to get the position, but never really understood why. Why truly am I in this role? Why am I doing this in a bigger sense, in a bigger contribution? And hence the state of imbalance. So I would have short state of happiness, but that happiness doesn't last. So what we're trying to offer you is a longer state of happiness by combining both types of doing and being. About this. Isn't it that interesting that Monday an announcement came out from Sheikh Mohammed about hiring a Minister of Happiness and Tolerance? Isn't that funny? Isn't that interesting? Look at the coincidence. It means even at government level, the corporations in the US are starting to talk this language, but governments in the GCC suddenly started to talk this language 3 years ago, but they were shy. They didn't really go full-fledged. It was only until Monday that the announcement actually finally went out with full courage, with full action, and they're now taking serious action to introduce the state of being into the state of doing. Everybody's talking about Dubai and what Dubai has accomplished and where it's going. But if Dubai wants to stay at the top, it cannot be in a state of doing because it'll end up in crisis continuously, on and on and on and on. And retention will be impossible. You can't retain the best people all the time. They'll be shifting just for the money. And that was the problem I was facing in pretty much all the corporations that I was in. You couldn't keep people for long. They were not happy. They were simply not happy. They made excuses. The money's not enough. My boss is not good. All that is superficial reason. But the truth is, the state of being was missing. The state of being was not existing. And now we have a leader who's talking about this. There's a promise. So, you're all here because you felt the same thing. It's not that he's ahead of you. You're actually there. You've tasted it. You've taken a glimpse by being at the eliminations and coming on for different services and different. You've been yearning. You've been asking the question, what more? Some of us have been getting sick, and they're saying, why am I getting sick? You're asking the question, why? It's been evident now that illness And physical disease is not just a manifestation of body, but it's a manifestation of a state that you're in that is unhealthy, that comes from, believe it or not, emotions. Scientifically proven and clinically proven as well, that all our emotions are nothing but vibrational frequencies. So Albert Einstein, Nikola Tesla, you name it, all the big scientists have found out that every living matter and every matter is nothing but energy. An energy that is vibrating. But the vibrational frequency, whether it's super fast or super slow, creates the form of that entity or that state of matter. So we are now vibrating. I'm vibrating at a certain frequency that's probably different than my brother. And I'm vibrating at a different frequency that possibly Laura is, and Elif is, and Manel is, etc., etc., etc. The idea is understanding that you can manipulate this vibrational frequency with learning certain techniques and tools that are so easy, that are so obvious, that are so in our face, but we never really use them, to elevate yourself from a state of weakness to a state of happiness that is long-lasting, not short-term. So if I take, for example, just a quick one, just to give you an illustration of what we mean by this. So let's look at view on God as being punitive. So some of us think that God just punishes us if we do things that are bad, okay? And that view on life, obviously, becomes frightening. So you're continuously afraid to make a mistake if you're in that state of mind, correct? And then if you're frightened, then what happens? That basically builds up fear, and fear is a horrible type of energy with horrible type of frequency, and the frequency is at 100. And for us to be at a better state, we need to keep letting that frequency go higher. You can't stay in that state, otherwise diseases start forming. And you start getting stomach problems, headaches, weakness, depression, cancer, you name it. It's all ongoing. And then if you're afraid continuously, what happens? You're in a state of anxiety. You're afraid to die. You're afraid somebody would hit your loved one by the car and they'll be gone. You're afraid you'll get an illness and you can't cure it. Ongoing anxiety. This anxiety creates a sense of withdrawal. So eventually, the state of anxiety is so high, you're so depressed, you don't want to see anybody. And then you tuck yourself into the bed, and you start sleeping, and you don't want to see anyone, you don't want to interact with anyone, and what happens? You deteriorate, and your frequency starts to slow down even more, and more, and more, and more, and you dig deeper, and deeper, and deeper, and deeper into worse states.